My practice of gratitude inspires magical motivation.
If you would like to learn about fairy folklore, delve into modern fairy faith spirituality, and explore fun and fanciful fairy-themed events, please subscribe to Fairy Fortunes for new videos every Friday.
Hello, my fair friends. I'm Ruby Ruse, and welcome to Fairy Fortunes. On today's episode, I want to talk a little bit about gratitude, which is one of the 7 fairy values that I've identified for my personal mode of fairy faith spirituality. Now, I think actually that gratitude is a little bit more difficult than many people consider on the surface, because I feel that when I'm using it in my own personal practice, in order to really derive the best benefit that I can from it, I really have to think of it in terms of the present moment, of something that is actually tangible and happening right now in front of me. The reason for that is that I was kind of turned off a little bit by gratitude at first, because it felt like it was wrapped up into that realm of toxic positivity, you know, because I've seen a lot of people are be like, oh, I'm grateful for my children. I'm grateful for my children. And what I found is that when I found myself kind of stressed out because I had to pick up from my child from school, and then I had to drive him to his extracurricular activity, and then he had to maybe go to a study session with a friend, and then I would finally be driving to pick him up, and we would be going home, and then he would forget something at one of the locations, and then we would have to drive back, and then I'd have to get home, and then I'd have to figure out how to cook dinner and get myself ready for bed so that I could get up and go to work and then do the whole process over again. In those days, if I said to myself, I'm grateful for my child, I'm grateful for my child, I'm grateful for my child, it just felt like punishment. Because in that moment, the reality is that I wasn't really grateful for my child. I was angry and frustrated and wishing that my life was different. And so the idea of gratitude was not bringing me anything, because it wasn't gratitude in that moment. It was just toxic positivity. However, how I found that I could get rejuvenation from that practice, how I could ground myself out, was when I felt my stress level rising in certain situations, or like I said, to use that particular situation, which has happened more than once, I would try to think of things that I was actually grateful for in the moment. So, for example, I might say something like, I'm so grateful I had the opportunity to get gas yesterday. Or I might say to myself, I'm so grateful for heated seats in my car. Or I might say, I'm so grateful that I've had additional training in driving, which makes me such a safe and responsible driver. These are all things that would return me to a sense of calm and a place of balance, that in turn would allow me to be focused on my child and be present for my child in a way that me over and over trying to say I'm grateful for my child, which wasn't necessarily true in that moment. And I wasn't necessarily going to be present for him by saying something over and over and over again that felt like punishment, that felt like I had no control and couldn't change anything. And that's the thing, is I identified that by actually focusing on the tangible things that actually were helping me, that were balancing me, just places me in a much, much better place. I also found that I had to be careful with gratitude, is that I really had to focus on things that I actually had and not on things that I didn't have. To use the same example, of driving my child to all of these places, saying to myself, I'm so grateful that I've had additional training in driving that makes me such a safe driver. That's something that's something tactile. Like I often will sit up straighter when I remind myself of that, when I have that great gratitude for that additional training, is that I'm like, yes, I am responsible and I do feel confident driving. That's more helpful to me than saying, oh, I'm so grateful that I didn't get involved in an accident. Like, the only way to experience that then is to get into an accident, and that defeats the purpose. That's like not what I want. So I want to focus us on experiences that I actually have and can have a tactile relationship with. So for example, I'm so grateful that I have heated seats in my car. Like, I can actually kind of lean into the seat and like feel the warmth and experience that in the moment. And that's something very present and very now and very current in that moment. And it just places me right back into the present. I'm not thinking about what might happen and then maybe causing myself anxiety, like, oh, I'm so grateful I'm not having an accident. Am I going to have an accident? It just raises the anxiety level, then brings it down and brings me back into the present. So a lot of times when I feel my frustration rising, I will take a moment to say at least 3 things that I'm grateful for in that moment to reestablish my connection to the present. But another thing that I find really is beneficial to my personal practice is to do gratitudes on a nightly basis. And I do that actually with a beaded necklace. This is my current favorite necklace to use. This is a necklace that was given to me by a very dear friend. He made it with intention of feeling it with the energy of the Norns, so the 3 fates. So I love that about it. I really feel that by using fate and gratitude together is really a powerful, magical context to use. So this is just one of my favorite beaded necklaces to use in my gratitude practice. And how I do it is I actually use the beads to count my gratitudes. So in a way, I guess I'm counting gratitudes rather than sheep, if you will, to get to sleep. And it's just beautiful because I find that when I do my gratitude practice is that I just have such restful and rejuvenating sleep. And in the morning, I just wake up so grateful. And another benefit to this necklace is, as I said, he made it with the Norns in mind. So he has these very interesting skull beads to represent fate in it. And I love how tactile these beads are. Like, it really gives another sensory element to my gratitude practice. So it's just lovely. But I have used just standard beaded necklaces to do this practice with. This is just my current favorite. And I mean, who doesn't love a beautiful gift handmade by a dear friend, you know? So what I do with this necklace is I start at the tassel and I count the gratitude. So I actually take the first bead from the tassel and I say to myself, I'm grateful for this warm bed, or, you know, the first thing that comes into my head. And then I'll take the next bead and say, I'm grateful for the warm shower that I just had. And I'd take another bead and I'd say, I'm so grateful that all of my kitties are cuddled in bed with me. And just so on and so forth. And I take each bead, and for each bead, I say another gratitude, something that I'm grateful for in that moment. And then I go until I either get to the end of the necklace or I go until I fall asleep. And what's beautiful about this practice is that I find that I never get to the end of the necklace. I always fall asleep within the practice. And like I said, it just brings me such restful sleep. And then in the morning, I just feel ready to greet the day. It's just such a beautiful and magical practice for me. So I'm curious to know, do you have a similar practice of gratitude? I'd really love to hear how you incorporate that into your practice. Or if you don't have a gratitude practice, has hearing about my practice encouraged you to maybe try something like this? Please let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you liked this video, I think that you would also enjoy the video where I talk about the 7 fairy values, which I will have linked for you in the panel right next to me. And do check me out on my website, www.fairyfortunes.com. And I'm also on social media, and all of those links for you will be in the description box down below. And with that, have a magical day.